Okay, here is the main interface for Infernus Strings, and we'll start up top where you can see there are 4 categories for the articulations that are included in the library. We got long, short, effects, and builds. You'll also see that there are volume sliders here, one for each instrument, so you can turn down all bass on all articulations by utilizing this slider, and cello and viola and violin. Down here you'll see that we have our various articulations that you can select. So if you click on the title of the articulation itself, it will load all 4 instruments simultaneously, and we can play those. And you get a sense of what it would sound like in the full range of the articulation. Below you'll notice that we have pan, so if we would like to perhaps pan low end one direction and upper end the other, you can add a really nice stereo feel to it. You can also mix and match, of course, depending on your preference. If you wanted to do a more intertwined feel, it can add quite a bit to it. We also have individual articulation pan. So if you wanted Sopant long pulls to, for instance, be more on the left, we could do that, and it will pan the entirety to the left. This is also individual volume for this articulation. From here, we can add any articulation that we like from any of these categories. All can be combined into a single patch. So if we perhaps wanted to add maybe a dramatic vibrato, but just on the uppers, we could do that. That would only include violin and viola. We could also do it for the lows as well. We could adjust that to maybe pan right, this to pan left. And from there, it's just a matter of anything that you would like to add. So if we wanted to maybe add some more of these on the low end, maybe a fast tremolo on the upper end, and we could pan this, and let's see how that sounds. Pretty chaotic. Again, we can also add articulations that are in other categories, such as we could add harmonic shorts perhaps to give it a bit of a kick. We could add some builds if that would work. And once we've decided that it is just too much, too chaotic, we just simply hit this purge button and it will reset everything back to 0. This library also has a presets feature. So it includes over 30 factory presets, and it gives us many options of different moods that we can explore and then of course alter. So if we just start maybe with the first one, subversion, it will automatically load particular articulations in particular ways, including panning and volume. Then we can just use these knobs to explore. And if we of course like some of it but not all of it, we can go explore and see what we might want to remove. For instance, we could take out, clean it up a little bit if that's more what we're going for. There are lots of different options, and it's just a matter of exploration and seeing which works. Here's one that utilizes more of the shorts. We have more of the creepy crawly vibe here. If we go to perhaps 8 legs, we're utilizing a lot of the Colanio static. Now let's imagine that we've decided to create our own individual articulation set. What we can do is, for instance, I'll just add a waver, which sounds like this. And perhaps a sopant trem. Bass is a little loud. We're going to turn that down. There we go. And we'll pan it left. There we go. We'll put up our own rights. What the heck? Something like this. Now say we'd like a little bit more space and, of course, delay. And let's go to build and we'll add a, let's do a descending. Okay, great. Now we've got our patch. We like it. We want to save it. What we can do is just save as preset. And let me resize this really quickly. We could just name it. I'll just name it walkthrough preset. Save it. And now we have, even if I purge it, load it up. There it is. Exactly the way we left it. This will be very handy for developing patches, especially if you're putting them in multiple queues. Now, the best way to get to know this library is obviously just to play around with it, see what works, what doesn't, but also to explore all the presets. They are a great resource for you to look into and see what works and what doesn't, and what you personally prefer. That being said, let's take a quick poke under the hood and listen to some of these articulations individually. So we'll just start at the top here. We are in the longs section. Let's just hit sopant pulls. Is simply a sopant long pull across the strings. Can sort of bring a joyousness, but also a very much on edge, creepy sound. And of course the low C on the bass is just fantastic. Moving on, we have a wave, which is a sopant wavering. Since this is a tremolo, it's very much reminiscent of the scratching that we'll see in the FX tab. We'll visit that shortly. But together they create a huge sense of anxiety and chaos, which is fantastic in the right setting. Half point waver. Another trem. Travels up a half step. Also bear in mind each one of these is controllable via the mod wheel. Another sopant waver. This is not tremolo. Sort of what I feel like whenever I get a migraine. We have slow tremolo. We have fast tremolo. Again, also mod wheel and pitch wheel adjustable. And then one of the most effective for me in creating really eerie textures is this just sort of exaggerated dramatic vibrato. Also pitch wheel adjustable, as well as mod wheel. Moving on to shorts. Pretty simple bend up here. Great for adding a lot of personality to hits. Sort of a shock sound. The crunch rip is another term I made up, but it's really just a term that describes the very crunchy rip that a string instrument might do when emulating the score to Psycho. But when we change that when we change that range, we get very interesting results. That are just fantastic for creating really raw, visceral hits. I adore that one. We have a short trem, which is really fun. Actually, after I recorded it, it almost is out of character for a horror library. But I adore it so much that I've decided to keep it in. It's still gonna have its place. And then harmonic shorts. Another slightly discordant, slightly unsettling sound that in the right setting can add a lot of upper end to your texture that may otherwise be missing. Now for effects, we have a variety of really exciting layerable effects. The aleatoric is something that can be added as sort of an upper frequency articulation, sound, texture, whatever you want to call it, onto anything, and it can add just an upper sense of anxiety. But it is just the non-pitched bowing of strings. Often what I'll do is pan this one way or the other and just add it in the upper register to give the sound a little bit more volume. Same thing with aleatoric trem, but this is a non-pitched tremolo. Excellent to add with Collegno static, by the way. A fantastic sense of creepy crawly. We have some ricochets. Lower strings on this were fantastic as well. We have dragging, which is horrendous. I'm charging double on the library just because that was so horrendous to record. Same with creaking. No, I'm just kidding, but it is horrendous. Static. This is one of my very favorite patches in the entire library, and if spread across the full 4 instruments and panned correctly, it can really create a full surround sense of creepy crawlies coming at you. Sort of a great underlayment as well to any texture that you want to build that needs just a little bit more motion, movement, something more unsettling. And scratching, which is much akin to the previous articulation I mentioned. Very, very effective at creating chaos and a very visceral anxiety. And finally, we have builds. So we'll start with the sopran crescendo. There are 3 different lengths of crescendos per instrument. There is short, medium, and long. And each string player travels from the lowest string to the highest string on each one of these. There's medium and short. And that travels across all instruments. A very effective build. We also have a tremolo gliss, which is a ascending gliss sound. Another amazing underlayment to put under a more sustained texture, as it can really just give the entire texture a sense of sliding, of being imbalanced, of something being wrong. We have ascending solpont, which is also horrendous. Should get bass in there. And those go on quite a while. You can make a very lengthy texture with those. They are not looped, however, since they have a pitch starting point and ending point that are not the same. Same with descending. Again, horrific and very effective. Very effective. Also, just to note that we have a dial here called horror, and if you were curious about what that might do, it's simply a distortion dial. So, for instance, if we're going to be doing perhaps a fast tremolo in the upper range, it's got a very shimmery texture. If we turn up it, of course, adds the distortion, and then delay as well. It is a non-synced delay, but it can add quite a bit to each articulation. So that's what these three are, and they are included in your preset saving and loading, as well as the purge. So upon hitting purge, they will reset to 0. So there you have it. That is Infernus Strings in a nutshell. Obviously, because of the additive nature of it and because of the matrix that is built in and the endless combinations that it allows you to create, that there will be so many things that you can do with it. And I am still myself discovering just what it's capable of creating, which is a very exciting thing to experience. So I hope you enjoy it. And I will see you at the next library.